regular meeting of the Monee Village Board for July 8th. The time is now 6:35. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's what I thought.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Here.
Trustee Gray. Here. Trustee Holston.
He's away on work.
Trustee Horn.
I'm here.
Trustee Pop.
Here.
I understand Trustee Racick will not be here.
Correct. This time I'll turn to Bethany Abbott from Monee Free Methodist for the invocation, please.
Would you pray with me? Dear God, we praise you and thank you that you are Almighty God. We thank you for allowing us to gather here today. We thank you for the many freedoms that we celebrate, especially this month. As we celebrated July 4th and as our festivities continue, I pray that we wouldn't forget those freedoms that we have in this country and this nation. God, I pray that you would be with Reuben and his family as they mourn the loss that they've gone through in their family. And I pray for others who might be on our hearts and minds, going through similar struggles, who may be ill, or just going through hard times. I pray that you would be with them. God, I pray that you would protect our community, you would protect this place that we call home, that you would be with our public servants, with those here at this meeting and other leaders. God, I just pray that you would cover them and protect them. God, I pray that you would strengthen the families in our community, that you would strengthen us and unite us, just as a village, as leaders here. You would unite us, God. God, I pray that during this meeting you would give us wisdom. I pray that you would just be pleased by the decisions made here, the conversations spoken here, and just the attitudes of our hearts and minds. God, we give this meeting to you, and may you be pleased by everything that happens here. Amen.
Bethany, if you would, I understand that some of the members of your congregation have been actively involved in Coal City and trying some of the efforts out there. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about
Sure.
what's been involved and
I don't
what
know
you've experienced?
too much, but we have had about a half a dozen people from our church and community just throughout the last really 5 days or so, over the weekend and then into the week here, that have just volunteered their time to go clean up debris, just help in any way they can. I was hoping I might get some information as far as how they went about doing that, but I know it was just through local government groups that were there. They just offered to help, and so pretty consistently people have been going there to help, and it's been really neat to see. And I would hope that if anything like that would happen here, that we would have people, and they had met people from all over the area too that I've heard about, so it's really a neat thing
Sure.
to see.
Thank you so much. At this point, we will go to open the public agenda items only. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Come to the podium, give your name and address, please. I'm sorry. Oh, we already did that. Yeah, so open to the public, agenda items only. I was getting coached by the back row there, and it's like, no, we're okay. Should be noted that Trustee Gray was able to join us.
I did.
Okay, nothing on open to the public. Go to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Pop, somebody want a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Trustee Horn. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gray.
Yes.
Trustee Horn.
Yes.
Trustee Pop.
Yes.
And Trustee Gonzalez.
Yes.
Okay. Clerk's report.
I don't have a report per se, Mr. Mayor, but I was given some information on the cancellation of a meeting that was supposed to be preceding our regular meeting. And it says a staff member from the office of State Representative Thaddeus Jones called to inform us that no member of Jones's staff is available to meet with the residents tonight. The State House of Representatives is meeting today as they work in continuous session to enact a budget. Consequently, tonight's constituent outreach event must be postponed. The event has been rescheduled to occur on Wednesday, August 12th, before our regular board meeting, and this time Representative Jones will be joining us.
So that was August 12th, prior to the meeting, so about 5 o'clock or something like that. Okay, thank you. The mayor's report, I don't have anything at this time. On the administrator's report, an update. Some of you are aware of the fact that Ruben was dealing with the death in the family, and so he was not able to make it back yet today. And so our prayers with them, obviously. Under the officials report, I'm going to go through these one by one. Trustee Horn, if we can. The budget portion yours, if we can go back to that. I just want to make sure we have all the other business out of the way first, if we can.
No problem.
Public Works, Trustee Gray.
Just one thing to report. As you see in the village, they are now working on the streets. The weather with all the rain has delayed a little bit. Over by St. Paul's and right here by Fireman's Park, you can see the streets are being torn up. Just please be patient that things are being worked on, but again, it also does have to deal with the weather. Obviously, they can't work in the rain, but they are out there every day working. Just please be patient, it will be done. End of report.
Thank you.
May I, Bill, I don't mean to, I was going to talk to you prior to the meeting, but I didn't get an opportunity. I drove around with DJ, Chriselle, our superintendent, looking at the streets one night. He was showing me what's going on, and he has precipitated into doing a different type of reinforcing the roads so they don't have to dig down so deep. They poured concrete on a number of roads to give it a firmer base, which makes it legal. You say it that way, it'll handle the traffic without excavating a lot more work, and it's going to save us lots of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I was impressed with that. I wanted to mention it. I wanted to let you say it instead of me, but I wanted to mention that mostly for the public. So, end of comment. Sorry, no.
It's okay. Parks and Recreation, Trustee Gonzalez.
Just one thing to report, for everybody to remember that this weekend, this Saturday, is Kids Day in Monee. So the official festivities start in the morning, actually, with the businesses that are going to be offering specials throughout the day, and then the actual activities start in Fireman's Park from 3 to 6 p.m., but it will kick off with a parade of kids starting at the police station. The lineup starts at 2, and the parade kickoff is at 2:45. So anybody that wants to ride or walk or roller skate or be in strollers with the parade, be at the police station starting at 2 p.m. and we'll walk over to the park where the festivities start at 3 p.m. And we have Dave Rudolph coming for a beach party with games, and then Magic with Christopher George. There's going to be a kids' garage sale, so the kids are actually selling their own stuff, which I think is pretty dang fun. And then at dusk will be a movie in the park, Dr. Seuss's The Lorax. And the other thing that I want everybody to notice too, that there's now a new brochure for facilities and parks rental for the village. So if anybody needs or wants to use the facilities, the park facilities in the village, to look at this brochure. End of report.
You look a little flushed there.
Sorry.
Okay. That's supposed to be a joke.
I've got a bunch of boys at home, I can't.
All right. Finance, Trustee Horn, do you have anything besides the budget at this point?
Nope, just
Okay.
we need to look at that.
Okay. Business Development, Trustee Holston is not here right now. Building Services Code Enforcement, Trustee Pop.
I have no report this time.
Okay, thank you. And Public Safety and Police, Trustee Razik was away for, I believe it was a work activity as well. Trustee Horn, let's jump through the rest of this, because I want to make sure that all of our time allocated on the budget is focused right on that. Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one item for the board's.
That's good. One item for the board's consideration is that there's a various ordinance for the board to review by Ms. Mohan, who I believe is present tonight before the board in case there's any question. This is for a fence at 4741 West Lilac. Ms. Mohan did appear before the zoning board last Wednesday, subject to a public hearing. There were no objections from the public. The board did vote in favor of this request for a variance for a fence, subject to the western portion of the fence not exceeding the lot lines. Other than that, the board approved Ms. Mohan's request, so it's up for the board's review and consideration. And Ms. Mohan is present.
So, just to make sure I understand this, so coming up, and then I may defer, if you don't mind, to our deputy clerk, because I believe she was at the meeting also, for any questions we may have. So you're wanting to put a fence that's how far off from the sidewalk or the property line, or what was the final agreement that was presented and approved by the P&Z? Or were you?
Yeah, I was there. I'm sorry. No, I believe,
It was in line with the building line itself?
yes, and I think there was a concession made where the western portion of the fence would not exceed the residence lot line.
Which is the same thing as the block east of there, I believe.
I believe so, and it would be, the height when it wasn't an issue, it would be uniform with the other fences, as far as I understand with the neighbors. I think the board had some concerns if she backed out for public safety purposes out of her driveway.
For the other neighbor?
Correct.
Adjacent to her.
And again, I know Ms. Mohan sent out the certified mail, green cards, no one from the public did show, and there's proof of publication. So I think it's just the western portion of the fence.
All right, and I believe that there was some, we're working some things out here, but I believe there's some misunderstandings regarding the proof of notifications that needed to go out, and I know that this had been presented to the P&Z previously, but now that the formalities have been met and we're all given all that, so I do apologize for any misunderstandings that may have taken place there. At this point, the board has had a chance to look this over. Do you have any other questions for Ms. Mohan?
And what I didn't see in there is the materials for the fence. What kind of fence is it going to be? It is cedar. Okay.
Unless there's any other questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation of P&Z.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, Gonzalez and Pop. Roll call, please.
Trustee Horn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
We need an ordinance number?
I don't think it's actually, oh, wait.
It is an ordinance.
Okay, you're right. It's right here. There it is.
page 1723.
Cool. Did you get your final vote?
No, I didn't. We did, let's do the roll call. Trustee Horn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. And the one other item that's not on the agenda for,
Eric, if I can
sorry.
ask you a quick. Just to streamline the process going forward on this, so what you could do then, just to make sure we understand, is I believe you can then pick up your permit in the morning if you wanted to. So stop by and Michelle or Carol or whoever will be glad to help you get the proper paperwork filled out for your permitting and making sure your contractors are registered and all that stuff, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The one other item that's not on the agenda, but for information purposes, it appears as though the World Kitchens facility has been sold to an investment company. I believe this is the same company who purchased the,
UTI?
yes, High Street.
Yep.
They will be asking, they're not asking for any consent or approval from the village, but they are asking that we sign a letter acknowledging the sale of the property.
And the transfer of the note payable,
Correct. And it,
the standard.
unfortunately, they don't have a tenant. They're looking for one. Hopefully, under new management, they might find one. But this was supposed to take place in March. The deal, for whatever reason, didn't go forward, but they feel the deal will now proceed by the end of this month. So at the next board meeting, I will ask permission for the mayor to execute a document indicating we do not object to the sale of the property. And hopefully they'll find a tenant.
Okay, so I know it's not on the agenda, but just so we get a consensus on this so that we can, Larry can at least report back that, I'm assuming we're all in favor of anything that would encourage transfer the note, get a new tenant, get business operational there again. So if I can get a consensus, a roll call vote just to confirm our willingness to do the standard, not a stop one necessarily, it would just be a transfer of the note payable, or,
Yes, sir. In fact, this is less than what they asked for on the original property. All they're asking us is to say, we do not object to the sale. Not that you have it standing, to be honest, because
right.
the note's the note.
Right.
And that'll be a formal approval, hopefully at the next board meeting.
So can I get a roll call on the soft approval, if you will?
Correct.
Please.
Trustee Horn,
Yes.
Pop,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
and Gray.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
And I know, Larry, we had talked about some ordinances that, we're working through the nuances and review of some of the ordinances from June 10th. There was the recognition, Larry meeting with the adjudicator, who had been sick for a while and things, and she had drafted some of the ordinances, realizing that they were drafted to be passed as a group, I think is what you called it, an omnibus.
Omnibus.
And so there was like items from that particular meeting, it would have been ordinances 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7. K1, you know, for the June 10th meeting. And then I think 5 and 6 were intended to be passed as a group, and the others could all be passed individually or not.
Yes, sir.
But in order for them to work effectively with the updates to the code, so they're not inconsistent through the code, because they all refer back to a section of 114.11. So Larry's working on the correct wording on all of that, and I believe by our next meeting, we'll probably have all that ready. We are still looking for anybody who's interested in sponsoring any of the ordinances. I know Trustee Horn and Trustee Razik had offered to sponsor some of them. And I believe at this point, we decided that K8 had no interest in moving forward.
Yes, sir.
So if anybody's interested in looking at some of those, you recall, Larry, which ones had not had a sponsor yet?
I believe those K4, Your Honor. The other one that didn't have a sponsor yet to date was the Liquor Control Act.
And then 10?
10 was, I believe, the smoke-free tobacco.
That was 9.
9.
And then I believe 10 was those blue boxes.
Oh, the roll
You know, where people threw used clothes and stuff like that.
donation box?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we have sponsors for, like the mayor said, I think 7 out of, we need 3 more sponsors, I believe. I can give you the exact numbers. The one that there's no sponsor and it's withdrawn completely, as the mayor indicated, is the one that dealt with police personnel guidelines.
Okay.
And like the mayor indicated, 1 through 4 all relate to each other.
And 7 was with it too, because
Yes.
right. 7 had to do with the fact that some of these are old ordinances or code, and then 7 had to do with the police powers, if you will, to do certain enforcement. And Larry and I discussed that, and one of 2 things could either take place. That entire section of code could be repealed, because it's somewhat redundant with what's already identified, or it needs to be passed to get it consistent with other code.
Correct.
And what was the basis for the liquor?
What I believe what the basis was, back in 1980, the statute referred to section 141, and technically, It's the Liquor Control Act of 1934. That was the only change in there.
Okay.
So when you do make an ordinance with respect to liquor anyway, you can't be inconsistent with the state. So what you referred to, and it should have been probably back in 1980, you referred to the Liquor Control Act of 1934.
Or any amendments.
Or any
subsequent
amendment
to that.
thereof, correct.
And I believe trustee Gonzalez had a question regarding one section, or paragraph that referred to the village president shall, I forget the exact, I think it was ordinance number 4 maybe?
Yes, sir, I think it said the village president shall enforce or the weight restrictions, and we amended that to indicate the village. So we deleted the word
Because
president.
it's talking about posting signs and stuff like that, so it just made more sense. It's just more of an execution sort of thing, so it's not a matter of decisions being made, it's more just implementation. So Larry has changed that to eliminate any title specifically, just responsibility of the village.
My secretary knows these ordinances well.
Okay. Okay. So those will all be addressed at a future meeting.
I would appreciate it if I may ask, or may say, any ordinances that have been changed or reworded,
You'll have new copies.
copies of
Yeah.
them.
And I suspect, Jim, so you have plenty of time to review them. Once Larry's had an opportunity to make sure that all, he and I will sit down in the next couple of days and make sure that everything that's been talked about has been implemented. My goal would be to get copies of those ordinances to you by the weekend. So you'll have plenty of time to review those. And, in case we missed anything else.
What I intend to do, trustee Pop, is I'll underline the change, and I was gonna put a brief cover sheet saying there are no changes since June 10th. Or since June 10th, we eliminated, like the mayor indicated, village president, we just said village. Or with respect to why that was changed, I'll indicate that's because it was under 141, and technically it should be under 11411. The changes, the only other change, the substantial change we made was with the roll-offs, construction roll-offs. We said it can't exceed a certain amount of time, and the same
I
thing.
think your suggestion was to allow for, to be consistent with the building permit if there was one. So if somebody had a roll-off or a mobile storage pod for a construction site, that's reasonable.
And I put who sponsored each, on the cover sheet, who sponsored each ordinance for reference sake.
Okay. Good. All right, thank you. At this point, nothing under old business. If we can, we'll go back to the budget. I believe we're good on all that.
Can I mention a new business item
Sure.
before we go into that?
Yeah.
I just, in talking with the police department, let me say it that way, various, we've been short officers for 4 or 5 years,
Okay.
2 of them. That's what the police department feels they need.
Okay.
And we pay a lot of overtime, not having the force we should. I understand that in the long run, it probably would cost us a little more money even because they'd have benefits and all that.
Sure.
But I think we should be looking into hiring some police officers if we're short.
Right. We're in the process of doing all that through and as some of the things we're trying to figure out how to address effectively here is that ever since our population exceeded 5,000 residents, we were required to have a police, and they call it police and fire commission. But it's, in our case, we don't deal with fire because it's a different government, unit of government. And as such, there is a process and a formality by which they have to adhere to. So that's not a short process by any means. When I came on a couple of years ago, one of the first things I asked the chief to do was to hire me at least a half a dozen part-time employees for police, because we shouldn't have to be paying overtime unnecessarily for special events or fill-in shifts if you had somebody off, and there's certain union negotiation requirements and all that sort of thing. So to minimize being caught short, where we could supplement the staff, and we have a minimum staffing of 1 or 2 full-time officers on the street at all times. the specifics of that, there's some variables involved in all that, but our goal was to not just hire full-time, but also hire some part-time staff. It was a lot more work than most people realize to find part-timers. As a matter of fact, several months into it, after asking the chief to hire some part-timers, and that's in his latitude to hire part-time support staff there, or personnel, he was unable to readily find part-timers to come to work for him. And at one point, I asked a couple of other departments if they had any of their officers that would be interested in working here. It took a while for that process to go through. Three of the 4 recommendations that I got from other departments that handed to the chief had already taken other positions by the time they were getting back to. So there was only one out of those 3 or 4 that was actually hired. And at that, there was still an effort to try to recruit more part-timers. I think we're up to now, we brought in 4 more, is that right?
Correct.
So we're up to a total of 5 new part-timers in the last year.
Correct.
And we've lost part-timers. We had Mark Twilley, who was a really good part-time officer that took a full-time job at Olympia Fields. And he would have been a good one for a transition from part-time to full-time if we had a program in place to do that, but we didn't have that. So
That's my point, Mayor. I'd like to see us get into looking for full-time instead of part-time.
I have no jurisdiction over that.
Well, I know the police commission does.
Correct.
Obviously, we have a voice with it. We can't tell them what to do.
Well, we can either allow by budgetary allocations of whether we're gonna deal with all that. The other thing we have to be conscientious of is we trust our managers to provide us the information of what they truly need. But I would expect the trustees, if you're asking somebody, say in Public Works, hey, do you need more people to work back here? Everybody's gonna say yes. You know what I'm saying? So we need to make sure that what's the basis for that. Now, the goal was, and still is, to hire two more full-time police officers.
Okay.
But one of the things I had told the chief was, until he hired me at least six quality part-time police officers, I didn't want to even discuss the idea of him hiring any full-timers. And it really didn't matter, because it's taken this long and we're still at a point where we can actually hire any of them anyhow. Because it's a process and it's setting up the rules and several things that are involved in all that. Because we need both. We need the full-timers for all the consistency that they offer and all that sort of thing, but we also need part-timers to supplement some of that. So we're in the
Well, it's
process.
just, what steered me into this is the overtime, what I keep seeing. Even with all the part-timers, we're hiring, I think with full-timers, we would cut into that, which would kind of supplement that extra cost.
Chief's not here tonight. He's actually on vacation, but
Well, I just
Jim,
thought I'd bring it up.
you bring up a good point, and we're about to get into the budget, but one of the things to keep in mind is that even with the addition of 2 more full-timers, I would agree, you would hope that with the part-timers and the new full-timers, you would actually have less overtime. But, Daryl, you and I have had this discussion. I know Anthony Razek has brought it up as concerns for it as well. According to the budget as presented, you don't see a decrease in that. So either we need additional street staff or we don't. But according to the way that department is run, you don't see a decrease in the overtime cost because of having additional staff. That's a question of practice, I believe. And I'm not a police officer, so I know that there are certain things where every shift you can expect to have a little bit of overtime. It depends on how things are scheduled and structured. But I don't want to have part-timers that, as an example, that don't want to do their job. They're just there as an extra body. We need people that are committed to doing their job, whether they're part-time or full-time or whatever the case may be. We don't need part-time attitudes. But we also need to make sure our full-timers are supportive and embracing of all of their colleagues, regardless of their rank or statuses, full-time, part-time, whatever else, and that can be an issue at times. Larry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, the one thing too you may want to consider is, might be best to wait till the state of Illinois hopefully passes a budget, because like the mayor indicated, there was a movement a couple, 3 or 4 months ago where some of the money to the villages would be reduced. And so I think some villages are sort of waiting to see if that takes place or not, because once you commit to a full-time employee, you would hate to see you hire someone and find out from a budgetary standpoint, some of our money from Springfield could be reduced. And that's a lot of rumors out there, but,
Well, your brother works for a department that was.
yeah, yes, yes, substantial layoffs.
Well, I can't speak that heavy about it because I don't know the numbers. I just know that the overtime looks excessive to me on the monthly bills. And I thought that without knowing that much about how it does operate, that full-time might be a better way of going. It seems like we're going mostly to the part-time, you know.
No, we're not going.
It's something we might want to study.
Jim, just so you understand, we're not going towards part-time. Part-time is always an option for any department.
I
Police,
understand,
public
but
works, or
you just
anything else.
mentioned that you hired 5 or 6,
5 totals in the
Yeah.
last year, right?
but no full-timers, you know. That's how
I don't hire the full-timers. The police commission does. So,
Well, the chair of the police commission is here, he's hearing the words, and I'm sure that they'll be discussing it. I don't know, Joe.
Jim, trust me, they've been working diligently on it for 2 years almost.
Correct.
But
Okay.
We do
it's
have
good to hear.
Go ahead, yeah, proceed.
Trustee Pop, we do have a active list, an eligibility list that has been created. We've gotten all our rules and regs out of the way. We've actually submitted a new budget as well for this process that's getting ready to occur. There is substantial money that can't have been, paid out for the testing. Testing is arduous. It takes a while because you want to make sure that you're able to obtain the right individuals when you're testing for a police department. And I think a lot of that has been overlooked, as we've seen a lot in the media recently. There's the backgrounds, the psychological that occurs, there's oral interviews, and currently we're in the middle of oral interviews, which is scheduled for July 18th. So we do have a final test eligibility list posted at the police department, and I'll say within the next 2 weeks, you will have a final list to be able to select from if and when the board chooses to do so.
Well, if you are working at it, I commend you because it's probably the most sensitive employee any municipality could hire for, okay?
It's up there.
We have to answer to that, so do you, so
Yes, sir.
appreciate that.
You're
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you. And Jim, in the budget's part of that, I agree, that's a concern I have as well. So, we're working on it.
I just didn't realize that there was a
Yeah,
process.
they're that close.
Well, that's good to hear. So if I would
Yeah.
have waited.
And Mr. Dresback in the back of the room, he was involved in it for quite a while as well, and so we're on to our second, almost a third round of police commissioners, if you will, and making this operational. So it's a small group, it's only 3 members, and it's a lot of work. As a matter of fact, I joke about not being able to select them. I get thrown out of their meetings because I'm not privy to their executive session or whatever even, and they laugh about throwing me out of the boardroom. And, what's that?
They like doing it.
I know they do. I think it's fun. So, anyhow, that's just the way it works in the state of Illinois, so. That's actually one thing that does work. I'll just leave it at that. If we can go back to Trustee Horn with the budget review, I believe, Darrell, if you want to come forward as well. At the last meeting, we had requested that any of the trustees have any questions, comments, concerns, or whatever else, that they submit those to, I believe, you, Darrell.
Correct, yes.
And,
Well, I didn't get much feedback, however, I did get an email regarding truck scales.
Okay.
I think there's going to be a discussion regarding page 5, if you all have it. It's the top line item
Okay.
in the police department, and it's for truck scales, 15,000. I think that's something that's going to
Okay.
Yeah, for
Point of discussion. Is that the only
That is
topic
the
that
only
was?
topic that I've had.
Question? That's fine. So, there again, this is put into the budget as a consideration. Let me just step back a second here, and Daryl, what you and I have talked about, I know that we've been reviewing with each of the managers of each department, but we're putting these in based on our conservative estimates of our revenue. We're having the matching expenses to go along with that so that we're balanced on our budget. But the thing that we're doing different this time around than we've done in the past, we did a balanced budget last year, but the thing we're doing different this year is we're going to try to avoid because we don't know what's gonna happen in the state. Springfield doesn't know what's gonna happen in the state, and they're the ones running it. So what we're gonna try to do is, even though this is being presented as a balanced budget, what we're going to do is say, the routine, the monthly, the more periodic expenditures, those will be fine. But we're going to ask the department heads, if at all possible, to defer their larger, more, less routine. They're not their daily operationals and all their monthly operationals and stuff like that. We're gonna ask them to defer the acquisition of those items as much as possible till we're about 2/3 of the way through the budget year.
Correct, yes.
And that way we'll have a better idea of where we fit on a revenue stream, because we do want to end the year with a positive, not a negative cash flow.
Sure.
And even though we can project where we're gonna be at, last year as an example, our revenue was lower than it was projected for last year, slightly. But fortunately, it was well managed and our expenses came in lower as well. But to be clear, this is what we're gonna implement for the departments, is a method of expecting that as much as possible, they're going to defer their major non-routine expenses till about 2/3 through the budget year.
Yes.
So being a point of discussion, I was the one who asked Daryl that question. That being said, I'm glad we're having a discussion, and Daryl, I love that you itemized so well on the budget because it's very clear for everyone to understand. So first, thank you for that. But the scales itself, that we still have not passed the ordinances about the trucking and the weight limits itself. Why I brought it up is I don't think it needs to be in a budget, and I get that we want to keep a balanced budget, but being that specific about what something in the budget is going to be spent on, again, we're leaving it up to the department heads. That was,
Correct.
I don't think needs to be a very specific item on the budget. And notice on the same thing on the previous page, that travel and training has doubled from this year to next year. And this is an assumption of mine, but it has to do with those ordinances being passed and special considerations needing, if those need to be
I'm
done.
sorry, what item was that?
That would be travel and training, 121,562 under police.
And I believe, if I'm correct, if we hire full-timers, there's gonna be a substantial amount of training and travel that we have to pay for.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so I made a wrong assumption, so I apologize for that. However, I still stand by the reason for this truck scales not even having the ordinances passed the way, the wording that we're going to pass them.
Sure.
I don't think it needs to be, especially if we want a balanced budget, great, let's find somewhere else to put it in there. And if police chief needs something of a large expenditure, we're able to keep it in that budget somewhere else.
Okay, so the two things is, I want to address the concern, number one, but as far as for a specific line item as compared to it being rolled into 832 or 833, as an example, because it's just more of a general equipment. Actually, the one's communication equipment, so that wouldn't work, but, we don't really have a, and I'm gonna defer to DJ or you, Darrell, either one for where do we put any of their other,
Well, the 833,
be more like a,
833,
I'm looking at
832.
520 is a maintenance for motorized equipment, and I'm looking in here.
Your 800 numbers, 900, 800 mainly are going to be large ticket items that are going to be capitalized and amortized over, 5, 7, 15 years, whatever it may be.
So maybe just a clarification that it would be an 830 something. but
Correct.
The fact that it's being specifically called truck scales, it could be some of those speed sensor signs, where it tells people you're going too fast or stuff like that. That could all fit into the same category of a non-motorized
Correct.
equipment
Yes.
line item, so the title itself could be clarified. But to go back to the other concern, I mean, I'm not sure if that satisfies your request on that, but I'm gonna turn to Anthony.
Can I finish my question?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that, yep.
And so that being said, if we do roll it into, if this truck scales line goes away and then that expenditure is gone into one of the other lines, it will come again before this board if police chief decides that those scales are required at a later time. That expenditure cannot be gone forward or without the approval of this board, is that correct?
Not necessarily. If it's a budgeted item, Darrell, what was I know we implemented an internal policy on certain things.
He would need the permission of myself, finance director, Administrator Batista, and
This board.
board approval, yes.
Oh, it would,
Yes.
for 15,000 would be the
For
threshold?
15, yes.
Capital
Because
expenditure.
I knew there was a dollar amount there.
10.
It was a 10?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
If I may, on this.
Yes, sir.
And I also did, and, I'm not gonna pay it my back, 2.5 weeks ago, like Darrell said on record here, that I did question this on the phone. Also talking with the police chief, not only do we have the scales here, but they need to be, and Anthony, please,
Maintenance on
recertified every year, that they have to go down, I believe, with Springfield to get recertified, or do you not know? Or Darrell, are you not sure? about
Yeah,
this?
I'm not sure, are you talking about the scales?
The scale themselves, they are supposed to be recertified every year. That means we'd have to be paying for that, plus manpower to drive them down there.
I'm not familiar with how that works, but I believe that the chief at one point had stated that they have to get
Calibrated.
calibrated, yes.
So that, and
There's,
which
there's, a,
cannot.
there's a couple mechanisms, if I understand correctly. One of those is taking them down there, or there's a drop-off pickup solution, but they're out of commission typically for a couple weeks if you let them transport it for you.
So,
But here's the thing, let me address the issue of scales and talking to the adjudicator and Larry about some things as well, but Chief's not here tonight, so Tony, I'm gonna have to defer to you as, right now, you have the ability to do weight enforcements, I don't know if you're actually truck certified yourself or not, but you have the ability to do weight enforcement right now, but in order for you to do that right now, you actually have to take somebody, you have to escort them all the way down to the scale house on I-57, which puts you out of commission for a half hour to an hour. And then if you ever feel the need to have backup or anything else, you've got to take somebody else out of our local streets to address that. So now we're leaving our village unattended, whereas if we had our own scales, temporary, permanent, whatever the case may be, set up somewhere, even if there was a call, you could just ignore the trucker if you needed to, if there was a violation of some sort, to go deal with a local issue. Versus if you're going to the scale house, you gotta drive all the way to Pewtown to get back.
That's correct.
Because you can't, and the other thing is for the truck driver, he'd be really annoyed if he had to be taken all the way over there. You're putting him an hour out of his trip too, just because you suspect a violation. And,
So, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't it take 2 officers to do, even with the portable scales, so that still is taking 2 officers off of the street at the same time.
But they're still in town if you have them.
I believe it does take 2. Some of them are heavy, I believe they're heavy, so if someone doesn't have the strength to be able to move them around, you'd need 2 officers to do that.
And we only have, because I have been calling, there's only one other municipality for a long ways that actually even has portable truck scales, and as, to my knowledge, is not even being used anymore because of the impracticality of it, because of the officer's time. I have been calling.
Okay. Tony, do you know, does the University Park still have scales?
I believe they have them. I don't think they have an active truck enforcement officer anymore that they use.
Okay. Do you know of any other towns nearby that,
Honestly, no, I do not. Besides the state police, I don't know of anyone
Okay.
else that has the portable scales.
that's fine. One of the things that we run into is that, well, you guys are familiar with this situation with Lakeway, Lakeview, and Michelin, and that whole situation that took place over there with the sound, wherever it is, the sound issues over there. Ruben has been doing some research with the Illinois EPA, and one of the problems we run into is the fact that because we have a situation where we have the ability to enforce something, it's our responsibility to do it as well. Illinois EPA has very little jurisdiction to go in there now because we actually have it, we're addressing that. It'd be like telling the police, I want you to slow people down on Court Street or Egyptian Trail or something like that, and saying, but we're not gonna give you a radar gun. You know, we don't want you to actually accurately identify how fast somebody's speeding. We just want you to say, slow down, I think you were speeding. If you can't quantify the violation, the consequences are in jeopardy. You can't validate that in court and just say, unless you're gonna come up behind them and you're gonna pace them. So the same way goes for overweight vehicles. If we're gonna just guess and say, you know what, I think you weigh more than 4 tons, I think you weigh more than, now I keep forgetting this. Our village clerk is a retired Teamsters member, you were in trucking and logistics and stuff, correct, Wayne?
I also had a traffic practitioner's license as well.
Okay, and I keep forgetting about that, but the overweight issues, you know, just kind of going into that, if you had somebody that was out on the road, George, you've got trucks that you deal with as well, and Syd, I think you do as well, that you deal with. Would you prefer to have somebody be able to be weighed right there as compared to taking them out of service for half hour to an hour extra because of having to take them out of the route, so to speak, all the way out to a scale house somewhere? You know, that's, and maybe I'm asking a question I don't know the answer to you guys individually on, but Syd, you got trucks that you dispatch on. George, you drive quite a bit, but Syd, some of the trucks that you drive,
we're primarily involved in household goods, and we don't get an overweight
so
situation.
you got a lady and take you right there anyhow, so it doesn't matter.
Point being, every trucker has a bill of lading, he knows what he weighs when he leaves, right?
He has a guesstimation.
Guesstimation. So full load of a semi is about 80,000 pounds, could be, right?
Could be, yes.
And these,
Up to, but not exceeding. The GVWR says 80,000.
The less permitted, yes.
Right.
80 is the max.
Right.
80,000 is the max.
okay, so even, my next door neighbor is a truck driver.
Okay.
He drives big trucks, and our ordinances are the ones that are calling now with these overages and the weights and things. A full semi would be violating a truck route if he came through our town, and that's what,
Only if he's coming through on our residential streets.
and that's my point exactly. And the law, the state statute says that if he's making a delivery, it can be either 1 mile or 5 miles off of the truck route to make that delivery.
Correct.
Anywhere
in this town is either 1 mile or 5 miles from a truck route. So we don't even need scales. And do you know in the
I'm sorry,
village?
I'm sorry, explain.
So they can make a delivery anywhere in this town, not exceeding that state statute. So we wouldn't need the scales to enforce a state statute, because it's already done.
This is not pertaining to that, this is for pertaining to, and Anthony, I know you deal with them, you normally work the night shift, I think, a lot of times, but, where people just fly through Court Street or Main Street or whatever else, and
So
they don't have a destination in our town.
So that being said, there's a sign posted there that says the weight limit is 16 tons. If a guy comes through, even if he's lost, he knows weighs more than 16 tons. He's gonna need to make a turn. And if he drives down Court Street, yeah, he's gonna get a ticket. We don't need a scale that he knows he's overweight and now not on a truck route.
But we don't know how overweight he is, and how much damage he's doing, and I may have to defer to DJ, because DJ is the one who is tasked with the responsibility of fixing all these roads that get damaged. As a matter of fact, when you look at Bruns, we got permission to detour, when Ridgeland was being rebuilt, we got permission for the trucks to drive down Bruns and up to Harlem. And Wayne, you live out in that area, you saw the damage, because of that just rerouting for a handful of days, how much damage took place because of that consistent overweight. And even when I talked to...
And that's even truck weight. Do you know, in the village of Monee, in the last 12 months, there was 3,300 traffic tickets written. Only 59 were truck tickets for overweight in the entire village.
So what's that saying about our police department?
Exactly. There's not trucks coming through our village.
No, that's not saying there's not trucks coming
59
through our
out of
village.
3. And
When I'm coaching,
124 of them were
when I'm coaching
parked.
baseball over here, and I see a half dozen every night I'm coaching baseball, driving down Court Street, that tells me there's violations, nobody cares.
Oh, we care.
No, I'm not talking about you, Heidi. I'm talking about the fact that, and the police are doing a better job of policing it. Okay? But it's a concern when you have children playing in residential areas, and you have trucks that are heavily weighted, and the more they weigh, the more time it takes for them to effectively stop. I don't know what the ratio is. George, you probably know more about it. Tony, you probably know some of that as well. But I mean, if you're on a bicycle, you can stop on a dime. You're a motorcycle, you get a little bit. But a car, a pickup, yeah. But you get into a heavy load, and if you're hauling 40, 80,000 pounds, good luck stopping. Kid runs out across the street there. And you say you're only doing 25 miles an hour? Yeah, good luck with that. I don't want to see, because we slap them with only a $50 fine. Even when I talked to the manager over the truck stop, after a couple of our trustees went over and stirred up some commotion over there.
I didn't stir up any commotion.
I don't even know who it was. I'm saying that when I went over and talked to the manager there, I told her, I said, listen, right now, the penalty is only $50, and people are saying, we'll take our chances. Just like what happened on Ridgeland Avenue. They said, you know what, if they catch me, fine. Otherwise, I'm going north on a one-way road, and they didn't care. And admittedly, even the manager there recognized the fact that $50 is not enough to get their attention, to keep them from violating that. They're taking their chances because, as you indicated, if they've only issued 59 tickets in the last year for trucks on a non-truck route, then they know they're getting away with it consistently.
Mayor, I take a little offense to your remark about stirring up something with the establishments. I think it's our duty as trustees, when an ordinance comes out, to see the other side of it too, and that's all myself and the other trustee were trying to do. And I think we learned something from it.
Well, I'll tell you one of the things.
And I'll do it again with other ordinances, and I feel I should talk to, that's my job.
Jim, I don't challenge that.
Well, you just did.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
All I said is there was
So
somebody
you
on.
stirred up a mess.
They did. And I don't even know who all it was, but I'm gonna tell you right now, that did any of the trustees that wanted to go out and elicit a public response take the time to do their homework, talk to me, talk to Larry, talk to Ruben, talk to the chief, before they went on and started talking to the public? Because the reason I asked that is because I offered to talk about any of these with any of the trustees, well in advance. All I'm saying is, nobody wanted to talk to me about it. It's fine. All right, you want to come and you wanna bring special guests to the meeting so they can, talk their presentation and all that, fine. Everybody's entitled to make their presentation about whatever they want to. The reality is, some of the information, by the time it got recirculated a couple times, was misinformation. And that's what I'm talking about. Because when I went over and talked to the manager, the rumors that had gotten around by that point were, we're gonna put scales out on the ramps, and we're gonna weigh every truck that comes into this town, which we don't have jurisdiction to be on the ramps unless the state calls us out there anyhow, typically. I mean, we can if we're pursuing somebody, but that's only in our pursuit. We don't have jurisdiction. If somebody's out panhandling on the expressway ramp, typically we have to call state anyhow, don't we? So we don't have jurisdiction over the state roads. So the misinformation that was being circulated out there was causing a problem. It was causing a stir. And, instead of talking about it and figuring out exactly what the intent was by talking to the council or myself
Or talking to the businesses, Mayor, then that wouldn't have to happen. We gotta look at the other side of things.
Jim, that's fine. But are you going to go out and talk to the businesses before you find out what the intent was to make sure that if there's a misdelivery of what was gonna be done? Because I've talked to the
I'm
managers.
handed 13 ordinances, I'll be out on the street checking out the different.
Jim, that's
I don't
fine.
have time
I've been over and I've talked to the managers over the trucks up.
for it.
And
Prior
they,
to the ordinance?
Right,
Writing the
yeah,
ordinance?
after the ordinance was written.
after the ordinance,
After the ordinance.
but the ordinance was drafted, it wasn't voted on, okay? So I've talked to the managers, all right? And they didn't take issue with it. As a matter of fact, surprisingly, the manager over at the truck stop offered to let us use their scales. But I don't know if that's good business practice.
Well, I think we should get back to the item and either take it off, vote on it, whatever we have to do.
It was just up for discussion, but I wanted to bring it up, and I was the one who questioned it, and I asked him to take it off. Of course, we have to discuss it, but that was my whole point of contention, that I will, if I ever see that on there, I will never vote for it, for scales, portable truck scales.
Well, don't we have the power to,
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to clarify with Daryl, and he did just was clear,
from
he
the
was very.
budget, that's all I'm saying.
Well, so Daryl, does it make just as much sense because of any other non-motorized equipment such as speed light, or not speed lights, but, I'm talking about those like little signpost things where you can put them out and stuff like that? Does it make just as much sense to change the category on that because it's already in the budget for that instead of being specifically truck scales, just called non-motorized equipment?
Sure. There could be a line item in which,
Because you already have a motorized equipment new, then you have no non-motorized equipment.
653,
653 already has that?
tool and work equipment.
That's in public
Is
works,
it-
though. That's in public works, though.
Would that be where that would,
we
That would
put it
make
there as
sense.
well, yeah.
so you just want to, it's fine. So consolidate those and let them be addressed based on,
Sure.
okay.
That was the only question I had regarding the budget.
Okay.
So that would be 0121653?
Yes.
I know we got two trustees that are missing tonight. Do you know, did they have any issues at all with anything that had been presented?
No, that was all I had.
All right, so with those changes as requested, I guess I'll entertain a motion for this to be presented in a final version with those changes made for the next meeting, which will then be the public hearing regarding the annual budget as well. entertain a motion to approve that with those changes requested.
Make that motion.
Warren? Do I have a second?
He actually just found a couple others, so I'm holding on for a minute until I get to talk to Daryl.
Well, we need to know because this has got to be published for public.
And I just wanted to bring up to you too, we're looking at revenue items too on the very first page. And we're talking about the presentation from guests at our last meeting. I just want to bring up to you, and thanks to Bill, I saw this, that sales tax on fuel that our village receives is $680,000, of which probably 660 of it, or 620,000 of it is on diesel fuel from those trucks. So just want to bring that up, if we're worried about what's coming from Springfield, having that single largest item for revenue, I think we shouldn't be messing with. But the other.
I'm sorry.
The sales tax on fuel is
Is what, the revenue that we receive.
Yeah, but
That's
it's only 120,
126.5.
Yeah.
it's not 680 as you indicated.
1% sales tax.
On the sales tax on fuel.
Yeah, it's only a penny per gallon, which tells you how many gallons you're putting through.
Yeah, we're putting through a lot of gallons. But the only other thing that I saw that is a big increase is on expenses of admin expenses on this part-time office, going from 45,000 to 79,000. That's, quite
Yes.
acceptable.
What we did there was, in prior years, there was a assistant village administrator, which was at 45,000. I believe there was part of this, right? What we did was we took that 45,000 and put it into the office
Part-time?
office staff part-time, because we're assuming that there may be some part-time staffers needed as well.
In lieu of.
Correct.
So we're not looking for assistant administrator now.
Not at this point.
I'll second it.
So Horn first, Gonzalez second. Roll call please.
Trustee Pop,
No.
trustee Gonzalez,
Yes.
trustee Gray,
Yes.
and trustee Horn.
Yes.
3-1.
Larry, this is pertaining to finance. Does it require 4 affirmative votes? Or is this merely for a presentation?
It's just for a presentation, Mayor, because we still have to have it,
The actual public hearing?
yes, sir.
The actual vote, so it's.
And it's gotta be, as Daryl and Michelle know, it's gotta be available for public inspection, so it
Right.
still can change.
That's the reason why we need to have this
Yes, absolutely.
finalized. Okay. So, all right, so Daryl, if you could, make sure that you get a final version with the changes as were stipulated. And Michelle, can you make sure that it gets, do we post that? Do we, on the website, or what do we, what's the requirement on there? What's the method of?
The statute just says available for public inspection, so you can just have it.
We can put it online, that's fine.
Okay.
No, don't worry about it.
I would suggest hard copies for anybody who doesn't have electronic access. A couple hard copies available in the office.
That's fine, no problem. Large print, so we can all read it.
Of course.
Okay, where are we at? Say it again. Open to the public, non-agenda items. If you have any comments, please limit them to 3 minutes and give your name and address, please.
Good evening, Lori Maureen Gorman, Peatone Public Library District. As a member of the Monee Chamber of Commerce, I just wanted to remind everyone that on the 25th of July is Monee Day at the Slammers game. 6:05 is the game start. Tickets are available at the Village Hall and at Mulligan's. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
How many tickets have been sold already?
He didn't tell me, he just asked if I'd make the announcement.
Oh, okay.
What time was the game starting on that?
6:05.
6:05. Okay. Anything else under open to the public? Heidi, would you remind us when Sheila's thing is? Is it the 19th?
Next Sunday again is Sheila Bartlett's benefit, gonna be held at Brian's in Monee from 1 to 6 p.m. It's $15 per ticket, and there's a bunch of kid stuff too, and kids under, I think 6 are only $5. So it's a very worthy cause for somebody very close to this village, has done a lot for a lot of people. So I have tickets with me tonight if anybody wants them. They will be available, I think, that day. So thanks everybody for coming and participating in that as well.
Okay, thank you. I think that's also the same day that baseball's having their whatever thing. I'm just saying, just so it's real. Okay. I don't believe we have anything else for executive sessions, nothing regarding it, and the time is now 7:41. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Warren,
Second.
are you sure?
Trustee Gonzalez,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.